Hi everyone, welcome to this week's Halton Hills housing update. So sorry I have been off for a few weeks. I was sick and then I was on vacation. So now I am back. I'm going to be recapping what happened in February and just checking where our market is currently standing. So looking at our February numbers, in February of 2025, our average price was $1,075,000. This February, we're down about 6% to $1,011,000. So we're still, as we have been doing basically for the last year and a bit, hovering between that $1 and $1.1 million mark. And it's just been like going up and down. So we're very much in line with where we've been, but just everything is just kind of quiet right now, and prices definitely feel softer than like where we came from. And looking at units, last year we sold 37 and this year we sold 36. So if you remember last February, that was when the market really started to shift with some of the like political stuff that was happening, and it's when things really started to die off. So we're at those same levels. So that'll be interesting to see if that carries through into March or if we start to see it pick up, which is the hope right now. So overall, a very slow month in February, in my opinion. No signs that it's like about to skyrocket. So looking at what happened, I obviously am not going to touch on like the sales that I've missed, but we are starting to see Georgetown inventory rise, but also our sales are picking up. So the last few weeks have had double-digit sales each week, which is much better than the like 4 or 5 that we were seeing. So last week we had 12 sales in Georgetown, which is a fine number. That's, if we can keep that up, that's great. We did have 16 new listings. So not as high as we've seen, but it's still higher than our sales. So we're hoping that that will like stay at bay. 9 of the 12 properties that sold were under 1 million. So we're starting to see things pick up in our lower price points, which is definitely needed. So now looking at our other markets, Acton, Glen Williams, and the rural market are very slow with sales. Like through February, I think we had 3 or 4 sales for all of those markets, and everything else was in Georgetown. So very quiet in our outlying markets. There were 3 new listings in Acton last week, no new listings in the Glen, and 3 new listings in the rural market. So we're definitely seeing overall slowness in those areas too. So not only is sales slow, but also inventory is not coming on as rapidly as Georgetown. So really just an interesting trend to be watching, because I thought by now we would have seen a lot of those properties that terminated come back to the market, but it's kind of quiet right now. So that being said, the last market update I did was February the 10th. So we have had almost 3 weeks of activity. Our inventory then was 138 active listings. We are up to 161 active listings. Again, most of this stuff is happening in Georgetown. So Georgetown went from 78 up to 97 active listings in the last 3 weeks. So we are starting to climb in Georgetown. It doesn't feel crazy when we're looking. It's not like every day we feel like we're like, oh my gosh, there's so much inventory coming on, but we are seeing a slow climb in inventory, especially because our sales are not matching our inventory numbers. So looking at the price points, under 800,000 is up from 13 to 17 active listings, so a bit more available there. 800 to $1 million is remaining relatively stable. It went from 31 to 32, and a lot of the sales that we saw were in that pocket, so that's helping to like keep that price point relatively stable. We did see a big jump between 1 and 1.5 million, so we went from 26 active listings up to 36. It is still very low compared to where we've come from, but it is definitely higher than we saw for the start of the year. And 1.5 million plus is still soft. It did go up from 8 to 12 active listings, but 12 active listings over 1.5 million is super low. And so for the sellers there are virtually no buyers above 1.5 million, but there's really not a lot of competition. So an okay time if you have one of those higher ticket prices, because you don't have a ton of competition, and hopefully you're attractive enough to the people that do have that budget and are sort of waiting. Acton this week is up slightly from 15 to 17 active listings, so things are still fairly soft in Acton. Glen Williams is actually down to only 5 active listings, which is so low for the Glen. I'm shocked that it's this low, especially where we came from last year. So I do suspect we'll see more coming up in the spring, but very low numbers for the Glen. So get your houses on if you live here. And the rural market is up from 39 to 42. So again, higher than we want to see, but it's not as crazy as in the 60s that we were seeing. Overall, decent month of February in terms of inventory. Our numbers did not go crazy. We are still almost half of where we were in like September. So these numbers are climbing slowly, which is better than skyrocketing the way we've seen it at some points in the last 12 months. I really am hopeful that with spring weather on the horizon that we will see buyers coming out, and like the price points of these properties considering where we came from are very good. Like I am surprised more buyers are not out right now. Things have like both felt busy and dead. It's a weird market right now. So that's what happened in February. I'm going to be watching this closely in hopes that we can see a spike through March. That would be really nice to see all the buyers coming out and our units sold through March much higher than it currently is, because our market is pretty dead if we're only seeing, you know, even under 60 listings sold in Halton Hills in a month. That is a really slow month. And so we're only at 36 this past month. Not great. So I will be back next week to see what happens for the start of March. Have a great week, everyone.